Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into an incredibly intense, almost mythic clash between the safe illusion of pure logic and the raw, totally unpredictable instinct of human expression. Think about it. We use words every single day, right? But have we completely forgotten the primal fire that actually birthed them? Well, we're going to explore this wild tale of a rejuvenated sage, a figure carrying what's called a gift matured, who descends into a marketplace with this kind of predatory grace, ready to challenge literally everything we think we know about language. It all boils down to one central, honestly terrifying question. Are you playing it safe with ink, or are you willing to bleed for your expression? Basically, this asks us to take a hard look at ourselves. Are we just using words as safe, sterile tools, or are we actually willing to tap into that messy, chaotic life force that gave them power in the first place? It's all about whether we have the guts to walk the shadow's path and face the true cost of expressing ourselves.
So, let's start with part 1, the safe illusion. Our fable kicks off in this marketplace that is packed with people, yet somehow feels eerily empty. And sitting right there is our first archetype, the scholar. This is a guy who proudly boasts, "We have pinned their syntax to the board like dead butterflies." It's such a striking image, isn't it? To study language, to make it feel safe, he actually believes he has to kill it first. He wears all this academic rigor like a mask of virtue, using it to protect himself from the living reality of words, and basically shield his eyes from the abyss that answers back.
And when you look at the scholar's methodology, it is just incredibly sterile. I mean, he relies on measured vowels and objective texts, literally using a silver fingernail to scrape away the natural decay of the ages. But these aren't just tools, they're defensive mechanisms. He's acting as one of the priests of small comfort, right? Using these rigid, clean categories as idols to guard his own smallness against a reality that is just way too messy and unpredictable.
Which brings us to part 2. Enter the Madman.
So right into this perfectly sterile environment steps our antagonist. And he's not just a madman, he's this rejuvenated sage, moving with that unnatural, predatory grace we mentioned earlier. He's carrying a heavy, unlit torch that reeks of sulfur. Essentially, he stands there as a living mirror, a speculum mendax, if you will, reflecting the scholar's flinching virtue right back at him. It's this ultimate clash. You've got the scholar polishing the dead bones of the past versus the sage who is channeling the raw primal wildfire that originally broke those bones. Looking straight through the scholar's academic facade with what the text calls the guilty eye of a founder, the sage delivers this absolutely devastating whisper. He says, "You call yourself a philologist, yet you are merely an undertaker of language." Wow. The sage's face, hardened by cynical knowledge, completely exposes the scholar. He's not preserving life at all, he's just guarding a corpse, pretending that the safe ink on the page is all there is to see.
Now, let's get into part 3, Das Dämonische defined. Okay, this is where it gets crazy. When the sage strikes his heavy torch against the stones, it doesn't cast light. Instead, it erupts into this thick, violent shadow. He actually names this force Das Dämonische. It's the subterranean torrent, the raw, unsublimated will to power that created words way, way before logic ever dried them up into crusts. It is literally the terrifying, instinctual drive that forces a tragic poet to sing straight into the abyss. As this violent shadow washes over the scholar's precious lexicon, the objective text just completely melts down. It's like watching neat, orderly grammar squirm. The pristine Latin and Greek roots begin to howl, reverting back into the chaotic battle cries of a forgotten primal youth. The sage is forcing the scholar to realize that his grammar was clean only because it was dead. It was a broken truth, a tool of bondage that just absolutely cannot contain the wild energy of words once they are reawakened.
Moving on to part 4, ink versus blood. Towering over all this destruction, laughing into the smoke, the sage declares something incredibly powerful. The demon does not care for your syntax. It demands blood to speak, and you offer it ink. This totally shatters the illusion that academic detachment somehow provides safety. You simply cannot appease the primal force of expression with dry ink. It requires your actual literal life force. The big takeaway here? Innocence is not safety, especially when you're dealing with the Dionysian fire.
The fable sets up this really stark visual divide. On one side, you have the illusion, neat categories, dry crusts, and this totally false sense of safety. But on the other side, the reality, the Dionysian fire, the instinctual drive, the abyss. As you can see, logic is exposed here not as some ultimate objective truth, but just as a fragile cage, another idol of the demon really, built to hold back a much older and way more powerful energy.
And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, the courage to be consumed.
In a final, dramatic act, the sage throws his burning torch right into the crate of old books. He initiates this destructive pyre, what the text calls a bad transvaluation, meant to shatter the scholar's lies and force him to witness his own internal failure right there in the squirming pages. And as it all burns, he delivers the core truth. To understand the word, you must first possess the courage to be consumed by the force that birthed it. True understanding isn't about control. It requires absolute surrender.
So, how exactly do we transition from being a mere undertaker of language to a master of its fire? Well, first, we have to abandon the safety of the objective text. We have to recognize that academic comfort is actually the very poison keeping us stagnant. Second, we must embrace das Dämonische, acknowledging that Messi's subterranean torrent of instinct. And finally, step 3, we have to allow ourselves to be consumed. We have to accept this shadow's path, letting the raw fire metabolize our fears so we can actually move forward as a sort of 21-year younger shadow with grim vitality.
This leaves us with one final provocative challenge from the marketplace. Are you content to just be a priest of small comfort, safely scraping mold off old lexicons and polishing the dead bones of your field? Or will you embrace the mocking grimace of the demon, step out onto the shadow's path, and let the primal fire of true expression completely consume you? The choice is entirely yours. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep questioning everything, and I'll see you next time.